Hello, and welcome back to Teachers Talk, a space where we highlight the voices of educators and teachers as we discuss culturally relevant pedagogy, teacher preparation, and the optimal development of Black and Brown students in the classroom. Today, I am going to share with you 6 inspirational activist educators who are doing the work today. One thing that I want to point out, or is important to me about these educators, is the way that they share their work. It is in a non-traditional sense. They have podcasts. They have books that are easy to access, very accessible. They have websites that are also easy to navigate. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram and have real conversations. So without further ado, let's get into this list of educators. First up on my list, there are 2. I'm presenting them together, not because they aren't both dope individually, because they are, but because of the work that they do together. They are Dr. Porcher and Dr. Bertrand. They are the lead creators of the Black Gaze podcast. And y'all, I'm obsessed. In this space, they use their voices to amplify the voice of Black students, to have discussions with teachers, educators, to talk about things such as voting, and a lot of other topics that are really important for educators to think about and discuss and have conversations around and include in their classrooms. And if you ever hear me say, something about OGs and paying respect to the OGs, I got them from them. They are like my aunties in the educational realm. Never met them, but so much love. I literally listen to this podcast as I work out, and I learn so much every single time. And you know what? I just came up with this in this moment, but I'm gonna just drop anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute of each of the people that I named today as educators on the spotlight, to share with us a little bit about their philosophies, the way they teach, and the way that they are. So here's a little clip of Dr. Porcher and Dr. Bertrand.
So tell the people who you are. It's your girl, Dr. Bertrand. And it's your girl, Dr. Porcher. And we are so excited, y'all. Tell them what we doing today, Dr. B. Y'all, all summer, you have been rocking with us. If you have been rocking with us, you know that we have been in the vortex, okay? So we have been all in the vortex with Dr. Yolanda Seeley Ruiz. She has this gem called Love from the Vortex. I'm not even going to go into it today because I might not come out if I go in. And so today we are doing the What You Read in Though book club. One of the segments of our Black Gaze podcast is What You Read in Though, because we really want our people to be well read and have the knowledge and understanding. So today is our virtual book club live event. We're going to be talking about Black love and liberation, and we have some guests. But before we get to all of that,
inspirational, right? If you loved what you saw and want to hear more, click the link in the bio, check out their podcast, listen to it, and let's talk about it too. Let's see what we can do about it. Cool. Okay. So next up on our list of phenomenal activist educators doing the work in a culturally relevant way and sharing it with us in a way that is super accessible, especially for young teachers, is Dr. Christopher Emden. Y'all, he's bomb. Hip Hop Ed, that's him. For white folks teaching in the hood, and the rest of y'all too, also him. And y'all, he's the only person on this list that I've actually met in person, and it was a phenomenal experience. So I'm gonna have a little bit of story time. It was in Newark, New Jersey. I was in Teach for America at the time. He came to speak, and after this, he spoke about the book. I brought my book with me, so I got it signed, and I just started to have a conversation with him. After the discussion was over, which I definitely took a lot of notes on and implemented some in my classroom, such as having lunch with my students and just things like that. But fast forward to the end of this session. Everything was over. It was at the Newark Museum, and we sat down, him, one of my close friends, and we started discussing charter schools. We started discussing the control of Black bodies. We started discussing what it looks like to be an educator within a space like this, and how all the educators can't leave, and what you can do. And we literally spoke for hours. He is brilliant and has so much to offer, and definitely check it out. Follow him on Twitter. I'll put the information in the description box below. Check out Hip Hop Ed, and if you haven't yet read that book, grab it. Highly recommend. And just like the last one, I'm gonna give you a little clip, a little flavor of Dr. Emden. Check it out.
Teaching and learning. So the book was like, listen, there's an issue around this cultural divide between the students and the teacher that I believe had to be confronted, had to sort of be brought to the fore, and had to be sort of troubled so we can get to a way of engaging educators in a way that really meets the needs of young people. So in the book, I talk about a philosophy around why there are these sort of demographic shifts in schools and how the teaching body doesn't reflect that. Then I talk about how we need to connect back to teaching and learning as a focus on indigenous populations who are urban youth, who I call neo-indigenous. And then most importantly, I had to give educators practical, tangible, everyday techniques that they can implement when they go into the classroom tomorrow to be able to meet the needs of.
All right, yes, bomb, right? Bomb. Next up on the list is Dr. Goldie Muhammad, and she is doing some phenomenal work with her book, Cultivating Genius, okay? And she's looking at culturally responsive teaching within the framework of literacy and just doing amazing, amazing things. I never had the chance to meet Dr. Goldie Muhammad, but I have listened to a few of her talks, and every time I go, I learn so much. One of my favorite things about Dr. Goldie Muhammad is the resources she shares. So I keep up with her on Instagram. If you follow her on Instagram, you'll see that she shares lesson plans. She'll share thought pieces. She'll share so much that's easy to get and be a part of and utilize in your classroom. I'm also really inspired by the fact that she still, not only as a professor, connects with upcoming teachers, but she keeps her hands busy and also educating, and she has like a little book club summer thing that she does with students. So super inspired by that. But instead of me talking for them like I have with the last two, I'm gonna go ahead and insert a clip of her spitting her knowledge. Enjoy.
It's not just about skills and standards. It's about students and their lives and their identities and knowing who they are and finding refuge in a sense of self and loving themselves so that they don't have to wait until adulthood to truly know who they are and who they're not and who they desire to be. And so it's also universal because that criticality lens will allow students to read the world as they go out in it independently. It allows them to know the truth about people that's different than them and not just be passive consumers of knowledge. You know, as long as there's oppression in the world, we need spaces in the classroom to nurture and teach criticality because we want our youth to grow up and just don't believe everything they read, see, or hear.
Again, just so good. So I hope that you guys have been enjoying the list so far. Without further ado, I'm going to move on to the next person on our list, which is Dr. Bettina Love. All right, have you heard of abolitionist teaching? If not, it's okay. A couple months ago, I didn't know much about it either, but she has been doing the work for a while. I will be dropping information in the description box, and I'll be sharing a bit about her work and letting her speak for herself again in the following clip.
Before I was ever a researcher or a college professor, I was an elementary school teacher. And I say that with pride. I was an elementary school teacher. And I was teaching in what many would call a underperforming school, filled with black and brown faces. And I had a connection to my students, a rich connection. And I thought that connection had everything to do with skin color. Until I realized and dug a little bit deeper to find out that that connection was hip hop. And this connection that I had with my students was not just the music of hip hop, it was the culture of hip hop. And I saw my students do amazing and incredible things in the classroom, strictly bringing their culture into the classroom. And to many people, the outside person will look at my classroom and say, there's no learning going on there. It is loud. It is not academic. And I saw it as organized noise. I saw it as kids using everything that they had to learn.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from Dr. Bettina Love. Like, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. And I think one of the things that's most inspirational to me about her is her emphasis on restoring the classroom space for students, right? Being a place where they can belong and thrive. So yes, keep on keeping on for our Black boys and girls. Thank you. So the next up on our list, also inspiration, also has a book that I read and learned so much from, is Zaretta Hammond, okay? And she wrote the book Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain, and it was just like, whoa. I feel like I learned so many things from the books, took away so many gems that I was able to implement in my work and my research, but also offer for different classrooms. I think one of the things that I really like about her work is this idea around teaching tolerance, and her website, which I believe is like tolerance.org, where she has resources for the everyday teacher to utilize in their classroom, and also she offers she also offers just like different educational things. So yeah, check that out. Check out the book if you haven't, and here's a clip from
My name is Zaretta Hammond, and I'm really happy to be with you all today. Spent time in the classroom doing just what you're doing, but some time ago came out of the classroom and really have been in a support role for teachers. Professional development around issues of equity, literacy, and cultural responsiveness. I had the pleasure of writing my first book, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain, really looking at neuroscience. It never hurts to understand what's going on in our brains as we're doing this work.
And last, but certainly not least, for our list of phenomenal activists, culturally relevant, dope educators for today is Dr. Yolanda Sealy Ruiz. She has been doing the work. She's over at Columbia, just being phenomenal, definitely an inspiration. She has articles that stems from why Black girl literacies is important, right? Simple, but so necessary. And it goes on to culturally relevant care, like the Dare to Care, which also is really important and really, really centers students and their needs. She also has a dope book called Love from the Vortex with a YouTube series that you can follow along with I Have, and I've been enjoying. And again, learning so much about love in the work. So she concludes my list, but before we conclude, let's listen and hear from Dr. Sealy Ruiz herself.
My official title would be teacher educator in English education, but in the last couple of years, I've been really seeing myself more as an interrupter, and I invite the students, the pre-service students in my class, to consider that as a way for them to see what they do as well. So what do I mean by teacher as interrupter? To some degree, I think it's a bit arrogant to state that we have educated or we have taught someone something. When I think about what I'm trying to do in my class, when I try to have students, predominantly white students who will be teaching in urban schools, think about their own positions. Who are you as a white woman, say? What's your positionality? How do you feel about issues of race and class and gender? As my mentor, Dr. Suzanne Carruthers, would ask, where do these issues live in you?
So I understand that this list is not it. There's so many people doing the work. If you listen to my video before this about the OGs, then you know that people have been doing the work for a long time. This list just speaks to some of the people who are doing the work that are an inspiration to me, that I use to develop the way that I think, and that has really pushed me to grow in how I go about doing the work and how I present the work, right? In a way that isn't just written and just for other academics, but really lends itself to educators, to millennials, to teachers, to other people who want to be able to access and use the work. If you have any educators that you want to add, please drop them in the comment section below. This conversation will be continued. There's always room to grow, always new things to learn, and education needs to continue to develop. So I'll be so happy to hear it, so happy to do the research, and then happy to continue to share with you all. Our next episode, I will be bringing on our first interviewee. She is an educator, she's a teacher, and she's going to share a little bit about what culturally relevant pedagogy looks like in her classroom and just her journey and experiences. Super exploratory, and I cannot wait to share it. See you next time. Peace.